Welcome to Money is Freedom, a podcast exploring how finance and freedom connect in our lives. Created from thoughtful research and narrated by NotebookLm AI, this series brings you clear, meaningful insights into finance and beyond. Welcome to episode 12. Today, we dive into the monumental moment Bitcoin hits $100,000, well, almost, what it means for the future of money, why it's the ultimate digital energy, and how it's redefining gold as we know it. Stay tuned for a perspective on this historic milestone and why Bitcoin is more relevant than ever in shaping our financial future.
All right, welcome back, everyone. Ready for another deep dive?
Absolutely. Always ready to dive in.
So Bitcoin, it's been kind of hard to ignore, right? Especially since the election.
Yeah, it's been making headlines. Big time.
I mean, a surge like this, it's got to be more than just the election, right?
Well, let's see. We've got some news articles, expert opinions. Oh, and even some audio clips this time.
Sounds like a good mix. So where do we even begin?
How about that Newsweek article? The one about Bitcoin hitting almost $100,000.
Oh, yeah, that was a pretty wild one. $98,000. A 40% jump since,
Since the election. This is getting really close to that 100,000 mark. Never been seen before.
I can only imagine the crypto world right now. Must be buzzing, right?
Buzzing's an understatement, I think. Lots of excitement, lots of speculation. But is it sustainable? That's the question.
Right. Because Newsweek seems to think it's all about, Trump.
The Trump factor, they called it. They think this surge is all about people expecting him to be, pro-crypto.
Which, on the surface, makes sense. He did say he wanted to make the U.S. the crypto capital, and that whole Bitcoin reserve thing.
It was a big part of his campaign, for sure. But let's not forget, a few years back, he wasn't exactly singing Bitcoin's praises.
Oh, yeah. Wasn't there that whole scam comment?
Yeah, back in 2019, I think, and again in 2021. Said it was based on thin air. Not exactly a ringing endorsement.
It is a pretty big shift in tone, isn't it? Makes you wonder what's behind it.
Hard to say for sure. But it does make you think, especially with his World Liberty Financial thing.
Ah, you mean his own crypto venture. Yeah, that timing is interesting.
Interesting indeed. But hey, let's see what the experts are saying,
Yeah.
Beyond the political stuff. Newsweek quoted a few, and most seem to think Bitcoin will hit that 100,000 mark eventually.
Eventually, sure. But when? That's got to be the million-dollar question, literally.
Right. Some say 2024. Others are leaning towards early 2025.
So no clear consensus then?
Not really, no. But one thing they all seem to agree on is that, Gary Gensler might not be around much longer.
Ah, the SEC chair.
Yeah.
Known for being tough on crypto.
Exactly. And Trump has made it pretty clear he wants to replace him.
So regulatory changes on the horizon. That's a big deal for anyone thinking about investing.
No doubt about it. It's a whole new landscape. But to really understand Bitcoin's potential, I think we need to look beyond just the price fluctuations and the politics.
Get to the core of it.
Exactly. And one of the most compelling arguments, at least for me, is the comparison to gold.
The whole digital gold thing.
Yeah. It's not a new idea, but it keeps coming up.
Yeah.
Especially now with all the, economic uncertainty.
And those audio clips you mentioned.
Oh, yeah, those. The speaker in those clips, he argues that Bitcoin, like gold, has a finite supply. 21 million. That's it.
So no matter how much the demand goes up, the supply stays the same.
Exactly. He calls it inelastic price, which basically means no inflation. Unlike, pretty much everything else these days.
Including gold, to some extent, right?
To some extent, yeah. Gold can be mined, so the supply can technically increase.
Okay, that makes sense. So Bitcoin, with its limited supply, it's a hedge against inflation, like a digital safe haven.
That's the argument, yes.
Yeah.
And to really drive that point home, he says, and I quote, "If the price of Bitcoin triples, you can't make any more. If the price goes up by a factor of 1,000,000, you can't make any more."
Wow. Yeah, that really puts it into perspective. But it's not just a digital replica of gold, is it?
Nope, not quite. It has some unique advantages, actually.
Like what?
Well, for starters, it's instantly transferable anywhere in the world. No banks, no borders.
And no need for, armored trucks or vaults.
Exactly. Plus, the potential for returns, way higher than gold has ever seen.
Makes you think, doesn't it? Now, this concentrated digital energy metaphor, I gotta admit, that one really caught my attention.
A powerful image, isn't it?
It is. So walk me through it again.
Sure. So the speaker's argument is that traditional energy, like electricity, it's hard to store, hard to transfer efficiently. But Bitcoin, he says, solves this. It's like this concentrated, easily transferable form of value.
He even compared it to steel, right?
Yeah. Steel, he said, is concentrated energy in metallic form. Bitcoin is concentrated digital energy. Pretty thought-provoking, right?
It is. Makes you wonder if it's more than just a clever turn of phrase. Could be pointing to something fundamental about Bitcoin's value. What do you think?
I think it's definitely worth considering. But let's not forget about another factor that Newsweek highlighted: spot Bitcoin ETFs.
Ah, yes. Those played a big role in this surge, didn't they?
Huge role.
Yeah.
Now, for those who might not know, a spot Bitcoin ETF lets you basically bet on Bitcoin's price without actually owning any Bitcoin.
Kind of like buying stock in a company.
Exactly. And it's all traded on regular stock exchanges, which makes it way easier for, well, everyone to get involved.
And then accessibility, it's like opening the floodgates.
Yeah,
Right?
exactly. I mean, during the election week alone, we saw something like $6 billion in trading volume.
6 billion. Wow. Okay, so there's a lot of excitement, a lot of potential. But let's be real here. There are risks too, right?
Well, absolutely.
Yeah.
Big time. We got to remember, this market, it's like a roller coaster. Super volatile. Bitcoin, no exception.
So buckle up, basically.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, as David Glass, he's a strategist at Citi, put it, this is not necessarily a short-term story. It's likely a much longer-term story.
Long game, huh?
Seems like it. And we can't forget about the elephant in the room, so to speak, the environmental impact.
Right. Newsweek did mention some research about that. Bitcoin's carbon footprint is, well, pretty substantial.
It's a serious concern, for sure, especially with all that coal being used for mining, something like 45%.
Yeah, that's not great. Not sustainable at all.
Definitely something to think about. I mean, how do we balance the potential benefits of Bitcoin with, well, the potential cost to the planet?
Big question, no easy answers. But speaking of surprises, remember how unexpected Trump's win was?
Oh, yeah. Nobody really saw that coming.
Well, Newsweek quoted some experts from Kaiko, and they said the market didn't really see it coming either.
Huh. So even a decentralized market like crypto can be swayed by political events.
Seems that way. All right, let's take a step back for a second, catch our breath. So far, we've got Bitcoin hitting record highs, Trump going all in on crypto, the whole gold comparison, and that concentrated digital energy concept.
Yeah, it's a lot to unpack for sure, but we're just getting started. All right, so let's dive into some listener questions, shall we? This one popped up a few times. Isn't Bitcoin just a fad? You know, like, won't it just crash and burn eventually?
Yeah, that's a big one. I mean, it's been around for a while, but there's still a lot of skepticism. Right?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, how many times have we heard Bitcoin is dead?
Countless times, right.
Exactly. But it always seems to bounce back, often stronger even.
So what gives? What's the secret to its resilience?
Well, a few things, I think. First off, the tech behind it, the blockchain, it's constantly evolving, getting more sophisticated. It's not static, you know.
Always adapting, always improving.
Right. And then there's the network effect. The more people use it, the more institutions adopt it, the more valuable it becomes.
Kind of like a snowball effect.
Yeah, exactly. It's a self-reinforcing cycle. But let's be real, there are risks too.
Oh, for sure. Another listener asked about that. What are the biggest threats to Bitcoin's future? So let's talk about those.
Okay, so even if Trump is good for crypto in the US, other countries might not be. We could see some like really strict regulations popping up elsewhere.
Creating a kind of like fragmented market.
Exactly. And that could hurt Bitcoin, no question.
Right.
And then there's the whole scalability issue.
Right. As more people use it, things could slow down, right?
Yeah, the network could get congested, transactions might take longer, fees could go up. Not ideal.
Definitely some growing pains there. But I thought developers were working on that.
They are. But it's tricky. You got to find solutions that don't compromise, you know, the whole point of Bitcoin, the decentralization, the security.
Right. It's a balancing act.
Yeah.
And speaking of competition, there are a ton of other cryptocurrencies out there.
Oh, yeah. Thousands of them. Some with, you know, flashy features that might seem better than Bitcoin at first glance.
So Bitcoin could get, like, dethroned.
It's possible.
Yeah.
But Bitcoin has that first mover advantage, you know, that brand recognition. It's hard to beat that.
True. Now, this listener asks, what does Bitcoin's rise tell us about the future of money? Whoa, that's a big one.
It is a big one. But I think it reflects a growing discontent with the current system, you know.
People are looking for alternatives.
Yeah. Alternatives to traditional currencies, things that aren't so susceptible to, you know, inflation, manipulation by central banks.
They want more control.
Exactly.
Yeah.
More control over their own financial destinies.
So Bitcoin is like what? A rebellion against the establishment?
In a way, yeah. It embodies this idea of like decentralization, Transparency. Individual sovereignty.
Powerful stuff. And this listener takes it even further, asking, could Bitcoin replace the US dollar as the world's reserve currency?
Oh, bold prediction.
Yeah.
But, the dollar's dominance has been slipping.
And Bitcoin, with its fixed supply, it's like the perfect counterpoint, right?
Potentially, yeah.
Yeah.
Could be a game changer for sure. But let's bring it back down to earth for a second. A lot of listeners are wondering, should I invest in Bitcoin? Now, obviously, we can't give financial advice.
Right. Not our area of expertise.
But there are some key things to think about. Like Bitcoin, it's volatile, right? It's not for the faint of heart.
So do your research. Start small. Don't put in more than you can afford to lose.
Exactly. Sound advice. Now, this next question brings up something we touched on earlier.
Yeah.
How does Bitcoin fit into a world grappling with climate change?
Yeah, the energy consumption is a big concern.
It is. But there's a growing movement towards sustainable Bitcoin mining, using renewable energy like solar and wind.
So there's hope.
Oh, for sure. We can envision a future where Bitcoin mining is actually good for the planet.
That would be amazing. Now, this listener asks, isn't Bitcoin often used for illegal activities? It's true, right? It has been used for some shady stuff.
It has. But, every form of currency has been used for illegal activities at some point.
Cash, for example.
Exactly. It's not about the tool. It's about the intent of the user, right?
I don't blame the Bitcoin.
Right. Plus, the blockchain actually offers more transparency than traditional systems. Makes it easier to track transactions.
So it could actually be used to fight crime?
Potentially, yes.
Right.
It all comes down to how it's used, how it's regulated. Speaking of regulation, someone asked, what role should governments play in the crypto space?
The big debate. Hands off or crackdown?
It's a tough one. Too much regulation, and you risk stifling innovation, but too little, and you could have chaos.
Scams, instability, loss of trust.
Exactly. Finding that balance, it's going to be a challenge for policymakers.
For sure. All right, let's pause here for a sec. We've talked about the risks and rewards of investing, the potential impact on the future of money. We've touched on the environmental concerns, the whole crime thing, and the complexities of regulation. Lots to digest.
Welcome back for the final stretch of our Bitcoin deep dive. We've covered a lot of ground, from market trends to, the whole sustainability debate. But now I want to shift gears a bit, talk about the bigger picture, the philosophical side of Bitcoin, if you will.
I like that. It's more than just numbers and charts, right?
Exactly. It's about ideas. And this listener gets it. They asked, could Bitcoin be a catalyst for greater individual freedom? I mean, that's a big claim.
It is, but it's an interesting thought, right? How could a digital currency lead to more freedom?
Yeah, how?
Well, think about it. Right now, we rely on these big institutions, banks, governments, to manage our money. What if we could, cut out the middleman?
Take control of our own finances.
Exactly. That's a big part of Bitcoin's appeal, I think. It offers the possibility of a more, decentralized system where individuals have more autonomy, more power.
Right. And that leads to another listener's question, which I think is really important. Could Bitcoin help level the playing field for people in developing countries? Those who might not have access to traditional banking.
Oh, yeah, that's huge. Millions, maybe even billions of people around the world are excluded from the current system.
Exactly. But with Bitcoin, all you need is a smartphone and internet access. It's open to everyone. Doesn't matter where you live, what your background is.
So we could give people access to global markets, to financial tools they never had before.
Exactly. Empowering individuals who've been left behind by the traditional system. Now, this next question takes it even further. It asks, could Bitcoin help create more resilient communities?
Resilient communities? How so?
Well, imagine local economies where people can transact directly with each other. No need for banks, no fees, just peer-to-peer.
Like their own mini economies?
In a way, yeah. Bitcoin could facilitate that. Local currencies, community marketplaces. It's about giving power back to the people.
Decentralization again seems to be a recurring theme.
It is. It's at the core of the whole Bitcoin philosophy. And it leads to, probably the biggest question of all. One listener asked, is Bitcoin ultimately a force for good or evil?
Whoa, that's a heavy one. It's like that with every new technology, right? It's a tool. It can be used for both.
True. I mean, fire can keep you warm or it can burn down your house.
So which is it for Bitcoin? Good or evil?
I think it depends on us, on how we use it, on our intentions. But what excites me about Bitcoin is its potential to, empower people, promote financial inclusion, create a more equitable world.
Those are some pretty lofty goals.
They are. And Bitcoin might just be a tool to help us achieve them. But it's not a magic bullet. We got to be realistic. There are risks, there are challenges.
We can't just ignore the potential downside.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We need to be vigilant, have open discussions, and use this technology responsibly.
It's a balancing act for sure.
It is. And the future of Bitcoin, well, it's uncertain. Just like the future of any new technology. But one thing's for sure. It's got people talking.
It sparked a global conversation about money, about technology, about the future of finance. And that conversation, it's just getting started.
That's right. So keep asking questions, keep learning, and be a part of shaping that future.